Tonight, measles cases taking off. A possible exposure at the Fort St. John Airport. Missing. Police find an Ontario woman's car, but no sign of the owner. An explosion. An NDP MLA is left shaken. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin tonight with an update on the number of measles cases in the Northern Health Region. And tonight, a new public exposure notice has been issued for the Fort St. John Airport. The BC Centre for Disease Control says most of the new cases in BC are from the Northern Health Region. The BC CDC confirming 8 new cases for Northern Health since Tuesday, and that brings the total to 41 for the region. People flying with WestJet in and out of Fort St. John on Monday are being advised to seek medical attention. The total number of cases across British Columbia has now risen to 63. And we'll have more on how the measles is affecting the rest of the country a bit later on in the newscast. Well, police in Fort St. John are asking for the public's help in finding a missing person from Ontario. Mounties say Emma Kango McCabe paid a visit to a business in the energetic city on June the 24th. The day before, officers found her vehicle in Fort St. John. The Ontario Provincial Police say they are very concerned about her well-being. She's being described as a non-Caucasian female. She stands 5 feet, 5 inches tall and has black hair and dark eyes. Emma also has a nose piercing, and police add it's believed she has shorter hair than in her picture and that her hair has green coloring in it. Now, Emma is also associated with a red 2022 Mitsubishi Mirage 4-door hatchback. The vehicle has an Ontario license plate CWCN226. Anyone with any information on her whereabouts is being asked to contact the Fort St. John RCMP. And police in North Vancouver say they're investigating an explosion at the constituency office of MLA Bowen Ma this morning. The office was behind police tape as Mounties investigated the incident. In a statement, Ma said all meetings and appointments at her office have been canceled today due to a security incident that occurred in the early morning hours. The statement adds, thankfully nobody was injured, but incidents like this can be quite frightening. The statement did not elaborate on the nature of what happened. Well, after a devastating spring, communities remain on high alert as we enter peak wildfire season. And in one British Columbia town, that includes embracing new technology powered by artificial intelligence that's got eyes on nearby forests 24/7. Andrew Johnson has the story.
In BC's hot, dry Okanagan, there is a new tool in the fight against wildfires: artificial intelligence.
The days of seeing smoke and then trying to figure out what's going on are kind of over.
24 hours a day, the community of Vernon and neighboring Predator Ridge Resort are protected by a system designed to detect wildfire before flames are even visible.
Before we received the first 911 call from a person in the park, the sensor was picking up the spikes.
The system is called SenseNet. It integrates AI-powered smoke-detecting cameras with satellite data and advanced sensors.
Sensors are essentially little mini weather stations in a lot of ways.
There are more than 100 sensors strategically placed across Vernon and Predator Ridge, many in wooded areas like this, monitoring everything from humidity to soil moisture, even gases in the air. When a sensor picks up the signs of smoke or fire, the cameras will zoom in on that spot and send out an alert.
We've had a number of alerts. This is actually a wildfire that's out by Maple Lake right now.
Fire officials say early detection isn't the only benefit. The system's AI can also predict how fast a fire may grow and in which direction. Critical information for planning an evacuation.
It can tell you, okay, I need to get this group of people out first, and I've got this much time to do it.
The city used a federal grant to cover the system's startup costs, and it pays $35,000 annually for maintenance. The resort purchased extra sensors on its own that are shared with the city.
For the value of the tool, when you look at embracing a new technology, incredible value for the taxpayer.
Considering what we needed to protect and what we're hoping is going to be a positive impact on insurance rates too, through something like this, that it was an investment we were prepared to make.
The CEO of Vancouver-based SenseNet, which has installations in 5 countries, says he believes the biggest obstacle for most communities is not cost, it's mindset.
Even if you have money, you prefer to buy a new fire truck instead of investing in the prevention technology.
Technology fire officials here believe could save homes and lives. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vernon, BC.
Well, despite Chrystia Freeland slamming BC Ferries for hiring a Chinese company to build its new ships, a federal bank is lending $1 billion to buy the vessels. The federal transport minister recently said she was dismayed and the deal shouldn't involve any federal funds. But the Canada Infrastructure Bank has confirmed the low-cost loan includes up to $690 million to buy the vessels and another $310 million for electrification infrastructure. BC Ferries says the bank loan was signed before Freeland's statement, and the loan would save more than $600 million in interest. The final numbers are in for last year's budget in Alberta, and the province coming in with an $8.3 billion surplus. That's $2.5 billion more than officials were expecting. Alberta's finance minister says the jump can be attributed to more tax revenue from a growing population, coupled with oil royalties that were higher than expected. Just over $5 billion of that surplus is cash the province can actually spend. The government will split it between its Rainy Day Heritage Fund and paying down debt. And Alberta's premier says the desire to separate from Canada has never been higher in her province.
I will say again that the separatist sentiment was created by Ottawa, by policies that targeted our industry, that chased away investment, and that are still in place today. I take that seriously, and I hope that the federal government takes that seriously.
Premier Smith says Albertans feel deeply frustrated and angry with Ottawa, and she points to the old Didsbury Three Hills by-election where an Albertan Republican separatist candidate garnered 18% of the vote. A by-election held back in 1982 in that same riding saw a separatist candidate win with more than 40% of the vote. It was the first and only electoral victory in the movement's history. As for Smith, she says she hopes the federal government is taking this seriously. As Canada and the U.S. seek to reach a new economic and security agreement by mid-July, there's been a new twist today in the Donald Trump trade war. Now the U.S. president says he's terminating all trade talks with Canada immediately. And Trump is putting the blame on Canada's controversial digital services tax. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
As the Prime Minister was hosting a virtual meeting to update his cabinet on U.S. trade negotiations, the president dropped a bombshell. On social media, Trump said because of Canada's digital services tax on American technology companies, he's terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately.
We have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada.
Speaking to CTV News after the Trump announcement, the Foreign Affairs Minister says the government is committed to continuing talks.
We will seek to have these unjustified tariffs removed. And that is the reason why we, because of the complexity of the negotiations, will not be having that conversation in public.
Tech companies that have revenues of more than $20 million, like Google, Meta, and Airbnb, are subject to the 3% digital sales tax. The first payment is due Monday. It's unclear if the Prime Minister knew this was coming, but in Brussels earlier this week, Carney spoke more cautiously about the progress of trade talks.
We'll do what's right for Canada. We're working hard to get a deal, but we'll accept the right deal with the United States. The right deal is possible, but it's nothing's assured.
Over the past several years, both the Biden administration and Trump have called the digital tax discriminatory against American companies. This former deputy prime minister says the tax can be scrapped to save negotiations.
I think the digital services tax is expendable in the context of getting a trade negotiation settled with the United States. But I don't think that if you've got something in a negotiation that you're willing to give up, you don't offer that off the top.
For months, the government has been trying to get punishing U.S. tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos removed and stave off future duties. Now Trump says he will tell Canada, along with other countries, what tariff rate it will pay. The Parliamentary Budget Officer estimates that the federal government would get more than $7 billion over 5 years with the digital services tax. Analysts say it's unlikely Donald Trump will return to the negotiating table without the removal or pause of this tax. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
And Donald Trump says there could be progress between Russia and Ukraine in the near future.
President Putin called up and he said, I'd love to help you with Iran. I said, do me a favor. I'll handle Iran. Help me with Russia. We got to get that one settled. And I think something's going to happen there.
Speaking in Minsk, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's open to more peace talks. He also criticized NATO's new 5% spending target, claiming it's based on a false pretext of Russian aggression. Well, now back to our top story. Health officials on Prince Edward Island are investigating a pair of measles cases that also involved air travel from here in BC and possible exposure on a WestJet flight. CTV's John Valley-Rao on what we're learning about the troubling slowdown in vaccination rates in some high-income countries.
The latest province to see a return of the measles, Prince Edward Island, where 2 cases are being investigated in unvaccinated and partially vaccinated people.
Both her cases are adults, and they are not connected in any way to each other. They just happen to occur at the same time, and they are both related to travel outside the province.
Passengers on a WestJet flight from Calgary to PEI on June 25th are now being warned they may have been exposed. The total number of cases in Canada this year now approaching 3,400, with reported cases in all but 2 territories and the provinces of New Brunswick and Newfoundland and Labrador. While in Ontario, where the measles hit the Mennonite community hard, the situation does seem to be improving.
I think it's a little premature to get overconfident, but it's certainly nice to see the arrows pointing in the right direction.
That is a new study in The Lancet this week found more than 15 million kids globally hadn't received any routine childhood shots. It also found in more than half of high-income countries, vaccine coverage for diseases like the measles and polio slowed down between 2010 and 2019. And during the pandemic, rates fell even further. At the Calgary airport, many passengers said they'd like to see more people get past any hesitancy and get themselves and their kids vaccinated.
I think it's pretty safe, and I'd like to see that happen so people don't get sick. I just wish that people would realize that it was one of the deadliest child killers before we had the vaccine.
Health officials say the cases in PEI are another reminder that measles is a very transmissible disease. And for those not immune who plan to travel this summer, it's best to be up to date with their vaccines. John Valley-Rao, CTV News.
Well, back here at home with Canada Day just days away, the city of Fort St. John releasing all the information that you need to know to attend this year's celebration. The festivities are mainly taking place in Centennial Park. It'll feature activities like live music, local Indigenous drumming, lots of food vendors, and of course, the annual parade. The day gets underway at 8:30 in the morning with a pancake breakfast hosted by the Fort St. John Fire Department. Then at 11, the Canada Day Parade starts at 108th Avenue and 98th Street. And the city is encouraging people to arrive early and to consider walking or biking to the celebrations. You can find all the information on our website at CJDC-TV News. All right, please do stay tuned. I'll be right back with a look at weekend weather.